You're listening to Let's Get Surety. Let me hear your bonding talk with Kat Shamapande.
Hey everyone, it's Kat Shamapande. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Let's Get Surety. I have with me today my co-host, Mark McCallum, CEO of NASBP. Hey Mark, thanks for being on.
Absolutely. Hey Kat, great to be back.
I am excited for the episode we have for you today. We're going to be talking about key partnerships for contractors to help them advance their bonding programs. So to discuss that with us, we've got Rich Sghiatti, Regional Vice President of the Southeast Region for Old Republic Surety. Hey, Rich, thanks for being on.
Hey, how you doing, Kat? I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
We also have with us Paul Ciambriello, Vice President and Partner with Guignard Company. Hey, Paul, thanks for being on.
Hello, Kat. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So before we get started and kind of dive into this topic, Rich, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and about Old Republic?
Sure, Kat. I started quite a long time ago. I've been in the business 42 years.
So you're just starting out, kind
just
of new.
Starting out, yeah. Just got off the training wheels. And I'm located in Atlanta. Old Republic Surety handles mid-market to large accounts. We also have a small contract division.
Okay.
And we're obviously pleased to be here to talk about relationship building for contractors to grow to the next level. So that's part of what we like to do.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be a part of it here with the NASBP as we talk about better together.
That's terrific. Paul, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your company as well?
Sure. So I've been a surety professional now for 37 years. Started out, spent time on the company side for about 15 years of that career, and the rest of the time here with the agency. And our company is a surety bond only agency based in Orlando, Florida. And we're licensed in all 50 states, and we do all surety, commercial and contract, and we work with startups all the way to larger companies.
That's terrific. So when a company or a contractor has entered into the bonding process and maybe just started out with transactional bonds, what advice would you give them to kind of take the next step?
A good question, because that is a strategy that a lot of companies are faced with today, because most surety companies have a small contract division. Mm-hmm. And obviously our aspirations are to grow that account to the next level, to what we refer to as standard business internally, but it's by any means it's just surety business, right? And transactional, it's important to understand that transactional there is relationship there, but it's mainly on the agency side. So either through insurance or the knowledge of the account in their local environment. So the producer, like Paul, has that relationship. On the surety side, that transactional business is credit scored, and application. There's no interaction with the surety, so to speak, at the contractor level and the surety level. It's mainly with the agent. So what Paul and ourselves, we collaborate, we come together. When they start pushing the parameters of that transactional, then it's up to Paul to get in contact with the surety underwriter on the other side of that fence and say, hey, I got a contractor that has aspirations, business plan to go much larger.
And that's when they're looking at like larger projects,
yes.
larger dollar amounts.
So they're exceeding the transactional parameters. Mm-hmm. So got to bring the underwriter in so that they can meet, sit down, and provide guidance on how do I get to that next level. And the surety underwriter and the agent would collaborate with the contractor to provide them with that insight so that it's more proactive rather than reactive.
Okay.
Right. So, Paul, maybe just step back for a second. I know there's no typical contractor, but a contractor that fits into that transactional space, what would they be like? What would be some of the characteristics?
So certain characteristics of that would be someone's been in business a long time and has never needed a bond before. And, the industry has kind of reached out toward those types of, contract needs, bond needs with, these programs that Rich was referring to where it's credit-based. Might be a pretty easy size bond relative to their experience and their time in the business. And that would strictly be a credit application and, just a little bit of underwriting just to understand who they are and what their needs are. And actually, our company will actually pull credit just to be sure, that we know who we're doing business with relative to what we have to, how we have to approach it on their behalf and help them. And then you have the other types that may be just starting out. Someone, even during the pandemic, even during the recession, a lot of people went out on their own, struck out on their own, and they would be first-time users of bonds, with good experience and just very minimal surety credit needs, and those fit into that category.
Are you seeing contractors maybe who are doing residential or light commercial now want to do public, like municipal work or other kinds of work? They want to make that transition. Are you seeing that right now?
I think there's a little bit of that by the nature of the business. Right. It's usually some entry point where that's a little bit easier to enter, less barrier to entry relative to bond needs, credit needs. But it's more of a focus on commercial and public work versus you don't see many residential contractors seeking
making that leap.
I would agree with that. It's seldom that you have a residential contractor getting into commercial. It's usually because they know somebody, and they want them to do a job. So then all of a sudden they're stepping out of their environment, going into a church or doctor's office.
That makes sense.
Stuff like that, where they have a friend or an architect engineer that's invited them to bid a job because they know them.
Yeah.
That's usually when you get involved with somebody making that kind of move.
Okay.
And I mentioned those transitions then. That's where you really need to have those right relationships.
Correct.
To go to the next level, because they probably don't have that.
Correct.
They need the bond producer to help guide them in building that, talking to the underwriter and so forth. So what are some of those relationships that you knit to get them to move to that next level?
I'll take a stab at that. Sure. We find that those type of contractors have aspirations and organization to grow into the commercial level. So you got to know their business plan. So
that makes sense.
Paul's going to sit down with them, talk to them, because he's the first contact, right? It's not the surety company. It's Paul. He's out there writing the business and bringing it to the surety company. So he's going to listen to what this owner has to say, and here's my opportunities. Here's what I have in my area, my organization, and he'll be able to provide that type of knitting to give them the guidance to get into that market and go to that level and bring in the surety company and talk about it.
So, Paul, is that often the case where they really don't have a formal business plan, when they're operating at that level, and then, that's part of your discussions is like, okay, you need to sit down and really think about where you want to go, how you're going to achieve that.
That's a good assumption. So generally that is the case where you run across someone who's never really had the bonding previously, and your opportunity is, or your role is to really give them guidance toward that. For me and our business, what we really work hard to do is understand what the needs are. So generally we can assess, inquire, try to understand what their current, situation is, where they intend to go, and then provide that feedback. We like to tell everybody that we work with is, we're not going to tell you how to run your business. We're just going to offer what you need to do relative to gaining the bond credit that you need and to be successful as a business.
You're advising them and helping them grow.
Correct. Yeah, we like to be a resource to offer a lot of different advice in different areas, for them to be a viable business relative to maybe the bond needs that come up down the road.
Okay.
So Kat, you bring up an excellent comment there. You said advisor, right?
Yeah.
So contractors, they're better with others assisting them than by themselves.
Yeah.
So,
aren't we all?
Yeah, pretty much. I agree, myself included, right? So Paul is the first trusted advisor, as I refer to.
Yeah.
And he's a trusted advisor is somebody that the contractor is inviting him or her to their table, and they look at him as a strategic partner.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. They're not a vendor. They're not a potential vendor. He's a strategic partner, and he could give, and then the surety comes in and add to that, give some flavor to what the aspirations and goals of that contractor are in order to accomplish them, right? So that is, don't make it too complicated, but have some type of official advisory board. And what we're talking about there is, a good construction CPA, a good construction lending financial institution, a good construction attorney, law firm, those type of things that can be either provided by Paul or myself, or even on the NASBP website, be guaranteed to succeed, where you could click on the resource and there's a drop-down menu as far as CPAs and banking, construction lending institutions. So that type of guidance, because every contractor at one time was small.
Right.
All right. So our effort here is exactly what Paul said. We're not here to drive their business and run their business. We're here to help them be successful.
Just a helping hand to get them
there
to the next level.
And so you need surety credit. So we're going to provide the insight on how to get to that level, how to balance your balance sheet, as I refer to it.
Yeah.
Cash flow, things of that nature. So.
Well, I imagine that, as you're a contractor principal, small firm, you're wearing a lot of hats.
Correct.
So you need that perspective, you need that help. And you probably don't know where to go. So hopefully you meet your bond producer, and then that bond producer can guide them on who's suitable in those advisory roles, right?
Absolutely.
Paul, you're out there, you know the community well, you know who has that experience and that focus, right?
Absolutely. So, again, our role is to create a network of professionals that really bring value. And that's really, again, a focus of ours, So it's not really about writing a bond. It's really about bringing value to a business toward that, opportunity to provide them with bonding when that need arises. And so as a result of that, we have a network, which, every professional surety agency does, local construction accountants, local construction attorneys, bankers that really understand the needs of a construction firm, cash flow needs and some of that lending. And, we work just as hard as establishing that community of advisors, toward that opportunity to offer to prospects or, our clients.
It seems like your role as the bond producer is really just so important when they're putting together this group, because, when you're talking about hiring in a company, you always hear, getting the right people in the right seat on the bus. Mm-hmm. And I can only imagine if you've got the wrong people in your advisory group, then, or just not with the construction background, it could be pretty perilous for a contractor, especially when trying to advance.
Well, it's always the challenge. Excuse me. The challenge is always meeting someone who has a relationship, and you never want to upset that cart.
Well, right.
Because you're in the process of really gaining trust versus, coming in and undoing everything. So you have to kind of ease on through that and understand, what their skill set is toward, what the real needs are for the expertise, in construction accounting, just as an example. And, it's a slow process sometimes, but generally they see, the opportunity really presents itself, and then, the contractor sees, the importance of that. And that's kind of really important to us to make sure we're only providing resources that are going to be effective. We don't just take a stab at it. We understand, we know that it's going to be a successful, relationship there.
Yeah.
And I'd like to add to that, this becomes even more critical to the contractor later in their growth. So if you have a contractor that is, let's say they're doing $10 million and they want to do a bit of $25 million job or something larger.
Yeah.
That foundation that's been established is now poised them to be in a position to be in a position to go put a proposal in on that job.
Yeah.
Versus nothing being done. Right. And then they want a big job. And it's like, well, okay, then you don't have the right financials, or there's some there's some missing information that it just doesn't kind of help you get to that underwriting comfort to go to that level, right? So that is really, this is at the beginning, what we're talking about is important to set that foundation for the next level. And that's what this whole podcast is about.
Yeah.
How do we get there, right? As a team, we're a partnership.
Yeah.
And that to that point, so that's why it's important to really assess. You meet somebody and they're really interested in a growth, mode, and so you have to understand that as agent, and then set those guidelines in motion to that point of, okay, here's where we are, but we really are seeking this. So okay, if you want to go down that path with it, here are the things you have to do to get to that credit that you're going to need. And the other important part of that is continuous communication. And that's really important.
point.
It's the collaboration, the communication. It's because, it's opportunity. Sometimes opportunity just comes up. So, nothing really happens overnight. It comes up and it's in the works. So you as a surety bond producer really need to be in front of that to understand what's on the horizon toward, bringing in the markets that are going to support that, and here are the needs of getting to that level. Here are the things you have to do. So,
And this is for any type of contractor.
Yeah.
It's not just for general contractors. It's for subcontractors, specialty contractors, civil contractors, whatever it may be. It's a foundation that is established that is going to help them grow and prosper. And I'll be quite honest with you, there's one thing, I don't think anybody likes surprises, right? I don't know too many people that like surprises, especially if
not
they're
in
not
business.
good ones,
Yeah.
right?
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, there's that collaboration, communication that Paul's referring to. I couldn't agree more with that, because one thing I struggle with is you get a call and something has occurred, and you're being brought in after it occurred, and you weren't consulted or even communicated to or collaborated. It's like, what kind of impact is that going to have on your bonding or surety?
Well, and the relationship itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the relationship's going to be there, but it's almost like, hey, what's going on here? I thought we were a partnership and we could help each other. And sometimes that happens, and we could go back, and that's part of a relationship, right? We're all in
That's
relationships. True. It's like, it's not all rosy path. And so there's going to be times where we might have to stop at the bus stop and reorganize and figure out what we're going to do. Because, as we said earlier, what we're there to do is be their partner to help them be successful, not run their business. So there could be things that they need to do for certain reasons, and we have to respect that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting point, so the high levels of communication, very important, but also you're talking about candor, making sure that they are giving you the full picture, the full information. And
Correct.
I'm sure that's where building that trust is going to be so important to get them to open up and really kind of tell everything that you need to know.
So as a
to get them there.
Right, Mark, that's perfect. As a trusted advisor, you have to be engaged,
Yeah.
right? You have to listen. You have to set up a frame. Then you got to set the vision up, and then you commit to it, right? All those steps are part of this conversation that a contractor, surety, and a surety agent all have to come together, and his unofficial advisory board. For example, a good way of making sure that happens is typically set up an annual meeting. Contractors set up an annual business plan meeting, right?
Yeah.
Invite those advisors to that meeting, and talk about the business plan, the aspirations of what direction they're going to go and what they're going to be needing to do, and then that way we can give feedback, and that feedback could be obviously put together, and hopefully there's some balance. Yeah, I know you said that, but I ain't going to do that. It's like that, but I could probably meet you here. Is that going to be okay in order for me to get this $40 million job? And, the surety could give some type of indication, well, that's definitely in the right direction, or no, that's going in the wrong direction.
Right.
Yeah.
So are there certain themes that you see emerging when you're in this process? And if so, what kind of tools do you use to overcome any challenges or to move them forward? Rich?
Well, tools we use are, we have access to Dodge, and other associations and other information, the CFMA, other things like that could give us insight, right? We also have internal resources because we have a number of accounts. So we can look at, all right, this is general contractors, here's their benchmarks, and how does this contractor compare to those benchmarks? And sometimes we'll share that in confidentiality. We'll share like, well, you have a 2-to-1 debt to net worth ratio, and based on your peers in your locality, you probably shouldn't be maybe 1.5 to 1 or whatever. Like you could give them some insight, valuable insight, and peer group analysis is something that a lot of contractors really, really are interested.
Oh, I bet.
Because they want to know, how are we doing?
Yeah, how do I
need a report card.
Stack up against my competition.
How do I Right. So there's some of the things that we can provide to help us to provide guidance to a contractor. You overcapitalized, you're undercapitalized, things like that.
The other thing, too, that I often hear in this realm is having that, what I call the market intelligence from the producer, from the underwriter, like who are good owners to work with, who are good GCs to work with, and how would they know that without that trusted team to guide them?
Yeah, it's a great point, Mark, because, again, often you get the call, and that's the best scenario. Hey, we're looking at a project with, ABC, and what do you think about this? Here's their contract. Can you review it? So as tools, offering tools, and we rely on our surety partners to assist with that, and we give a lot of guidance that way. We actually even will send it out to local attorneys and have them review documents, just as a resource. Again, providing value. But that's a great point, especially in this market where there's so much demand. There's so many challenges to that demand with the labor situation and also with the supply chain and the material delivery. So the idea is really be more selective with who you work for. I always like to say, I don't care if you have 100% profit. If you don't get paid, it's zero. Right? And that's really something I say all the time. Like really be selective. And so that's a great point. Like who to avoid or what are the pitfalls of working with. And really the frame of reference is the market intelligence. Here's our experience. Here's a surety partner's experience that they've relayed to us to work on. Be more diligent with this. Level it the playing field. Keep it all nice and even for everybody versus, all one-sided with onerous language and onerous provisions.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that crucial asset that they get with this surety relationship is that the producer and the underwriter really have a great sense of the overall market and what to run after, what to avoid, where they can't. They're seeing it in kind of one focus. And so as a team, you bring that to each of the clients.
Yeah, we as at Old Republic Surety, we get an exposure to multitude of contractors across the country. And that is shared with ourselves. We communicate with each other. We have a legal department that reviews contracts, bond forms, obviously. And we, like Paul was talking about, we could provide insight into this language is, obviously let the contractor know that this is above and beyond this typical guarantee, and you need to be aware of that, and hopefully pricing it right, or maybe walking away from it, getting a change, things like that, like consequential damages rather than, per room or whatever. It's
identifying those red flags that might be in there.
So like Paul was saying, somebody could have 100% profit in the job, but that'll be gone in a heartbeat if they get into a situation that is unfortunate.
Yeah, and it's again, to me, it's really it's a value added proposition, but it's also the responsibility that we have. Like Rich was saying, when you engage in this, now we're also taking on that responsibility to assist, and it's more of a macro level. And we have there's a lot of contractors that work really well in their communities where they serve, but they don't have that whole macro view. So they will come to you, and really your role, my role, our role is really to offer the guidance to give them an understanding of the potential pitfalls. And the surety participation on that, again, goes well beyond our resources. So we value that. That's a very, very, wide, view of it all to assist us in providing that guidance down the road. So.
And if there are any small and emerging contractors listening to this podcast, what one piece of advice would you give them? If they only take one thing away, what would you want them to take away?
Listen.
Listen.
I'll be quite honest with you. It's a very simple. Again, don't make this complicated.
Yeah.
Right? You're in the business to be successful. Listen. Don't. Often, you'll hear either a surety or we'll give them advice that either it's a bad, not a bad owner, but it's a difficult owner.
Right.
Or the project is. The reason why no one else is bidding this is because there should be a reason why no one else is looking at this. Don't just simply put it aside and say, "Oh, I can do it. It's not going to be a problem." Right? So listening is not just hearing; it's all listening to what's going on in front of you. So it's two things.
Yeah.
Yeah, active listening, and that I have a lot of in the 42 years I've been doing this. I had a lot of good contractors. We talked to them, we supported them, and I could think of a number and said, "You're putting all your capital at risk for this one job.
Mm-hmm.
Bring home the bacon," right? Year or two later, in a meeting, it's like, "Should have never done that. I should have listened to you." We ended up getting out of there with our tail between our legs. We finished the job, but that was a big mistake. So sometimes, unfortunately, they're entrepreneurs, we're entrepreneurs, and we get caught up in the mess, and hopefully it's, as I always refer to it as, hopefully you don't go to an expensive university to gain the knowledge of what you just experienced.
Well, I can only imagine that's a tough decision when you're trying to grow, but knowing when to walk away is the best way to grow.
It's very difficult.
Yeah. So I would say, the advice I would give is to communicate, seek out an understanding of what the perils might be. For me as an agent, I tell every client, call me no matter what. And then if nothing else, we'll give you validation. Mm-hmm. But on the real, positive side, we will alert you to things you need to be aware of or thinking about. And whether it's bonded or unbonded, we're still really always interested in just getting those calls ahead of time so we could just offer some feedback. And I think Rich said earlier, it gives the contractor, whether you're small, medium, or large, just a macro view of some of the things that are going on. It's a dynamic marketplace wherever you are, and it's changing. Right. Owners that were good owners previously are tough owners today, and it's a very dynamic marketplace given all the economic conditions that are occurring now. So it changes. So it's really important to openly communicate. Whether it's something that requires a bond or not. And, it's just great to be able to bounce it off of someone who could bring you some other viewpoint that you might be missing.
Yeah.
I mean, I always like to always think that if the small emerging contractor, they want to grow, they just realize that the surety relationship is invested in their success.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, we're fond of our tagline, "Be guaranteed to succeed."
Right.
And that's what the surety relationship is all about.
Right. Better
Yeah.
together.
Better
Yeah.
together, absolutely.
The Be Guaranteed to Succeed has come up a couple times while we're talking. I'll make sure we include a link out to that for anyone who wants more information. There's a lot of great contractor resources and resources for bond producers and underwriters on that page. So we'll get that link in there so anyone can go out and get that information and be better prepared.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Well, thank you guys so much, Rich and Paul. It's been great talking with you both today. Hopefully we'll get you back on another podcast. We'd love to have you again.
Certainly.
Enjoy that.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks
Enjoy
so
it very
much.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
You've been listening to Let's Get Surety. Let me hear your bonding talk. Brought to you by the National Association of Surety Bond Producers. For more information about the NASBP and its members, visit nasbp.org.